music is a tool for social change. Music is a tool to preach social justice. I think that in my line of profession, if you have a microphone, then you have a voice. And if you have a microphone, and someone is willing to listen to you, then even better. I think that as musicians, as artists, we're able to preach the message, especially in a way and manner that the ordinary African can relate to and can identify with. And that was pretty much the goal behind the Tell Everyone project, for instance, which was geared towards sensitizing people about the importance of the SDGs. I think that as musicians, we have a voice, and I think that with that voice, we can carry on this message. Because the issues that the Sustainable Development Goals speak to are real practical issues that affect everyday Africans, from poverty to gender empowerment to climate, or climate change, or controlling our environment or being responsible for our environment. And I think that the materials that we create as artists can actually reflect the need for us as a people to come together to address these issues. So I believe very strongly that as a musician, together with other musicians, we can lend our voices and drive the importance of the SDGs. I think there are very many ways that we can effectively address these issues. Again, it goes back to orientation. We have mindset issues that should be dealt with. Mindset issues that would help manage how we manage our economy, how we trade with the rest of the world, how we manage the result of our trade, how we manage the profit of our trade. I think that's one essential fundamental situation that we must manage, the mind of the ordinary African. But I think outside of that, how we invest and how we attract investment in areas of, for instance, renewable energy, would definitely manage how we manage our environment. There are many areas in which, especially with regards to how we use energy, we abuse our environment, and especially in poorer areas, if we can actually do research and development into cleaner ways of using energy in Africa, and just monitoring how energy is used as it's done everywhere else in the world, I think that we can manage to effect the reason or the drive behind the sustainable goals in the area of environment. There's a lot of degradation in terms of even the companies that function in this area, in terms of how we manage and exploit oil, in terms of the regulations that guard or guide such activities, and how it speaks in favor of the interest of the people in such places. So I think it's just being a bit more conscious as a people, in terms of how we engage on environmental level. I think that's important. How we manage and how we use renewable energy can definitely change, can effect major change. In terms of managing poverty or getting out of poverty, I think gender empowerment is definitely one major contributor to our development as a continent. And I think that how we're able to, as we create more jobs and as we recognize the importance of women and their ability to contribute to global development, I think we'll begin to speak to some of the issues of poverty. A lot of the issues that we face are also culture-based, and as we address the systemic flaws in our culture that deals with some of these areas, we're also able to help Africans create wealth for Africa. Yeah, these are, possibly some of the my thoughts on these. I think the private sector has a lot to do in bringing the goals to reality. It's definitely growing. It's involved in industries from art to oil to energy, name it, and generally we have functioned as a people relying on our various governments to do just about everything. But we can see, it's obvious that we're experiencing a boom in the private sector generally, and as we attract investors, as we trade, and as we transact, basically, we interact with the environment. We affect, in one way or the other, the poverty level of Africa as a continent. And so, it becomes important, since this is, the environment, this is the space that services this sector, that, it is drawn into it, and it is involved in the SDGs. I think, how job creations, regulations, these sorts of things affect how, the private sector can function. It needs to be heavily regulated. Well, not regulated in the sense that it's not able to function, but there need to be regulations that govern the activities, or that check and balance the activities of the private sector more than anything else, that makes it also inclusive in terms of its relations or its interrelations with the government. A lot of the companies that are involved in job creation and wealth creation in Africa or in Nigeria, for instance, are privately owned companies. So it's impossible that we can sustain these goals without involving the private sector.